And LXX programs and partnerships are, and this is really important, which is why it's underlined, helping students learn to address the increasingly difficult economic, social, and environmental challenges of our century. Our motto is empowering children to change the world. And in addition to doing that, we try very hard to promote through education, knowledge, skills, and values, the perspectives and practices that are essential for a sustainable future. We also have a website that's chock full of information for educators at all levels. And we also support an initiative called Sustainable Future Schools, which is an approach, a whole school approach, helping school boards, ministries of education, and schools meet their initiatives by using the Sustainable Development Goals as an umbrella. So moving from there, I have a connection to many different species in the world. And I don't want you to think that I'm weird yet. Although once you know me, you probably won't think that I'm weird, but weird could be good too, could be interesting. So I wanted to introduce you to some of my tree pals. And I want to tell you a little bit about their characteristics to see, who knows, maybe you find yourself connected to a tree that you never even knew about, and you might share some of those characteristics. And really, this is a way to get you up and moving about and talking to each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you to some of the more than human guests that I brought along today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. And once I've introduced all four, I want you to think about which one do you share the most characteristics with. And then I'm going to invite you to get up and go over there and meet the tree. And I mean, really meet it, like shake hands with it, rub its needles, take in its beautiful scent. And while you're there, you'll meet some other people and have a conversation with them about what in their environment sustains them. So I'll start, and I have to tell you, as an educator, I've learned very quickly that as soon as you give people the opportunity to get up, move about, and talk, I've lost control, which happens in my classroom all the time. So I have a quick way of getting control back. And I normally use this outside, but and I apologize to those online, and we're going to find it a little bit disturbing, but I'm going to get your attention using this. Recognize which bird, like I've been practicing in the car all the way down here. A lot of people think it's a duck, but it's a crow. It's a crow. I'm trying to be very crow-like. So if you find yourself sharing characteristics with the white pine, then you're a very flexible and soft person. You also are very dramatic. You age very well. You kind of have this asymmetrical look about you, you know, think Group of Seven, Georgian Bay kind of thing. And you do best in sunny and fairly dry locations. So if you feel close to the white pine, come up and meet them. Over here, we have the white spruce. If you share characteristics with the white spruce, then you're only moderately tolerant. You're very sensitive to pests. You're well-rounded, but can be a little bit stiff and a little bit sharp. I'm talking about the needles, but it could be you too. Interestingly enough, they have no hair present on their twigs. I look around, I might say, Eric, I know which tree you're going to go to. And they do best at stream banks and lake shores. That's their favorite place to be. Or perhaps you find yourself more like the white cedar, which is lying here on the ground so that it doesn't get in the way. Cedars are very, very tolerant, extremely versatile. They age well. In other words, you're resistant to rot and decay, which is a good thing as we get older. We can be a bit gnarly and sometimes naughty. That's a naughty. Yeah. And you smell great. You always smell great, very aromatic, and you love wet locations. And finally, you could find yourself very similar to the balsam fir, who has an overall very attractive form. Depends what you think of yourself. It could have a little bit of a blistery skin though on the bark. You're pretty blunt and you're pretty flat, but you have a beautiful smell, especially when you massage, and you love cooler climates. So the idea is that you get up, you shake hands with some of these trees. If you're online, I'll talk to the people online. We're going to put you in 4 different rooms. You decide which one of those trees, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you feel closest to. And remember, talk to each other about what is it about your environment that sustains you. So go meet the trees. Yeah, I hope you had a chance just to meet some colleagues and talk a little bit about where you're from and what sustains you. And if not, you'll have the whole day to do that today. So, okay, there we go. In addition to what was introduced at the very beginning this morning in terms of sustainability, I wanted to bring a couple of other definitions into the discussion. So a very basic, broad definition by Chuck Hopkins from UNESCO talks about well-being for all and forever. The Brundtland Report was mentioned, meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And I have a favorite scholar from a favorite Dutch scholar named Arjun Walls, who I will introduce to you in a few moments. He's going to speak to us in a very short video, but he says it's not only about doing things better, but it's about doing better things. And I believe that gives us a lot of food for thought in how we approach sustainability in terms of education. So I just want to, before we move forward from here, talk a little bit about the UN Sustainable Development Goals, because really this is like a roadmap for direction in terms of sustainability worldwide. So the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, also known as the SDGs, bring together the economic, the social, environmental dimensions for a safer, healthier, and more prosperous world by 2030. A very, very lofty goal. They're organized into the 5 Ps that shape sustainable development: planet, people, prosperity, peace, and partnerships. And in addition, for a little background knowledge on the SDGs, in 2015, after the Millennium Goals were assessed at how the world had done in terms of the 8 Millennium Goals that were identified, Canada, in addition to 192 other countries, adopted the United Nations 2030 for the next 15 years agenda for the sustainable development known as the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals. And these goals are supposed to provide a blueprint for peace and prosperity for people on the planet now and into the future. And they are, the idea is it's a call for action by all countries. I'm going to read this so I make sure I get it all right. To eliminate hunger and poverty, to improve health and education for all, to reduce inequalities, to ensure sustainable consumption, production, clean energy, and inclusive economic growth, all at the same time while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and our forests in the next 8 years by 2030. Education for Sustainable Development really is designed to build a more just and sustainable world by strengthening these goals. So a very brief introduction to this through a video.
We can be.
We must be the first generation
to end extreme poverty.
Just a minute, and we'll have sound. Can I start again?
Yep.
We can be.
We must be The first generation
to end extreme poverty.
The generation
most determined
to fight injustice
and inequalities.
The generation that saves the planet from climate change.
And this is how it will get done.
The global goals.
A 15-year plan
For everyone, everywhere.
with no one left behind.
We will live in a world
where nobody
anywhere lives in extreme poverty.
Where no one
goes hungry.
where no one wakes in the morning.
Asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child has to die of
Diseases we know how to cure.
And where proper health care
is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world
where everyone
goes to school, and education gives us the knowledge
and skills
for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all girls and all women have equal opportunities
to thrive
and be powerful
and safe.
We cannot succeed if half the world is held back.
we will live in a world
where all people can get clean water
And proper toilets
at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where there is sustainable energy for everyone.
Heat, light,
and power for the whole planet.
Without destroying the planet.
we will live in a world where economies prosper.
and new wealth.
Lead to decent jobs.
For everyone.
And we will live in a world where our industry,
Our infrastructure and our
Best innovations
Are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
we will live in a world
Where prejudices and extremes of equality
are defeated.
Inside our countries,
And between different countries.
Where people live in cities and communities
that are safe, progressive,
And support everyone who lives there.
where we replace
What we consume. Planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of
climate change.
where we restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas. We'll restore
and protect
life on land.
The forests.
animals, the earth itself.
with peace between and inside countries.
Where all governments are open.
And answer to us for what they do at home and abroad.
And the justice rules.
With everyone equal before the law.
where all countries and we their people,
work together.
partnerships of all kinds,
To make these goals a reality.
These are the United Nations global goals.
For sustainable development.
Let's get to work.
There you go.
Thank you.
Next one.
I'm glad it's
There you
talking
go.
to you.
There you
Natalie. Okay, great, thank you. So now that we've had an opportunity just to rub shoulders and needles with each other, then you might find that you're in the right place. After all, you signed up to come today, and you all have genuine interest in understanding and living more sustainably. But the truth is, we also have to acknowledge and recognize that as much as we understand how important it is to make good, sustainable decisions to live well and healthy, we are also part of the problem, or we're really lying to ourselves if we think that we're not. And a perfect example, I mean, I live in a beautiful forest community on a lake that's an hour and 40 minutes from here. And I get my water from a natural spring. We have very few amenities. We heat with wood. We chase the hydro trucks around and wait for people to cut their trees down to get wood. And but in the same breath, I teach at Wilfrid Laurier, and I drive an hour and 40 minutes in my car by myself, and I chose to live there. So I'm lying to myself if I say I'm not part of the problem, because I can say I have no choice because there's no public transit, but I chose to move there and continue to work here. So and this is particularly important when we teach about sustainability and we learn about sustainability, because we want to practice. I see so many people here with carrying water bottles, and we carry a mug, and we do our best, but we do make decisions every day that also contribute to the problem. And I think we just need to acknowledge that so that we can start to weigh our decisions and figure out what is the best path for me as as a human living on the planet. So understanding that we're part of the problem brings us to a little game that I want to play. And it's called the Dilemma Game, and it comes from the Canadian Wildlife Federation puts out a resource for children on learning about the wild. It's called Project Wild. And they've updated it more recently to be a little bit more humane education based, but there's an activity in there that this is an adaptation of. So what I wanted to do was present you with 4 different scenarios, and really they're dilemmas. And I have them on a card here, and you groups of 2 or 3 people talk together, 3 or 4 people talk together. Larger groups can come together. You can look at more than one scenario. And the idea is to read the scenario and think, what would you do? Now, they're pretty black and white. So just to enrich that task, or to sort of enhance it, not only what would you do, but how might you consider changing that scenario? What questions might you ask? What decisions might you insist upon in order for you to be able to feel that this is an okay thing to do? And I'll give you an example. I'll read you the dilemmas, and then I'll hand them out, and I'll give you some time to talk. And those people online will, so there's a QR code at the top that Emma created magically in moments this morning, which would have taken me hours. And so the idea is that there's a Jamboard so that people can put their ideas and their suggestions and the questions that you might ask if you were faced with this dilemma. So the people online will have a chance to talk to each other, and the people in here, if once you have some ideas, I'm going to suggest that you go to that Jamboard of that, and so we can all sort of see everybody talking to each other at the same time. But I'll present the dilemmas first. What happened? I'll read them off here. Old school. I don't know what happened.
You click the link and I think it's going to the Jamboard.
Can we go back? Okay, here's the first dilemma. Around 2.4% of global CO2 emissions come from aviation. Okay, let's just do it like this so everybody can see what I'm reading. There we go. Come from aviation. Together with other gases and the water vapor trails produced by aircraft, the industry is responsible for about 5% of global warming. Should we give up flying for the sake of climate? That's one dilemma. Another one is, this won't apply to everybody, but you can sort of put yourself in this situation. Having a pedicure is one of the only luxuries you give yourself. And for years, you've been going to the same nail salon with your daughter for a mother-daughter day. But after doing some research, you discovered that the nail polish and its removers are considered hazardous waste because they're toxic and flammable. This means that when discarded, they sit in landfills and leach toxic components such as toluene, formaldehyde, and dibutyl into the soil. Do you stop your yearly tradition? Or you're an avid camper and spend as much time possible as kayaking through the wilderness. You dream of a vehicle that holds all your gear and easily carries 2 kayaks. You've been given the opportunity to purchase a used SUV at an amazing price. However, you realize that it will emit carbon like crazy. What would you do? And finally, and I think that this one is the hardest one for me because it's the biggest dilemma. A recent study confirms that pet meat-based diets have a fatal impact on the climate, due mainly to high carbon dioxide emissions. In addition, our loyal friends are big resource consumers and waste creators. Meat eaten by dogs and cats creates the equivalent of 64 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. By the way, all these underlined, all these bold things, there's a research link attached to it, so I didn't make those up, which has about the same climate impact as a year's worth of driving from 13.6 million cars. Should pets be banned? So I have a variety of different scenarios here. I'm just going to throw them on the tables. I'm going to invite you to talk together in some groups and talk about what you do, and then go to the Jamboard and start putting some questions that you ask or ideas that you would have around the appropriateness or the decisions that you make. Down here. Different ones. Here.